Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Right Side Rising. So today we're joined by Solia Mechling, a popular conservative content creator who has built a large following of around 30,000 on Instagram. She is one of the boldest female conservative voices out there. So Solia, thank you for coming on today's show.
Having me. Like you said, I'm a Christian conservative content creator. I'm starting my own business. I have a YouTube channel. I'm having my own show coming out. So I'm doing a lot of things. And then I'm also a full-time college student. So I just like to keep myself very busy.
Wow. Well, that's great. So obviously introduce yourself. Like tell us, what do you do?
I do a lot of things, but I especially have a heart for young conservative Christian girls who want to have a community. Like I said, I'm building a business. I can't exactly say everything right now, but that'll be coming out soon. I'm making the Solia Mechling show, which is a mix of pop culture and politics. And yeah, I just have such a heart for conservative teens because I know that Turning Point was such a big part of me starting all of this stuff, and I'm sure we'll get into that. But I really want just an outlet where young teens can feel like their opinions are also expressed. And, growing up, I grew up in a Christian conservative family. I was homeschooled. So that might be a little bit of a different perspective as well. My mom's half Colombian, and her parents came here legally and built their life up and built the American dream. So I just have a lot of different passions that make me who I am. I also played sports growing up, so I was almost any sport that you can think of. So, of course, what Riley Gaines stands out for is something that is big for me because as somebody who played at a very competitive level in a lot of different sports, I think women should be able to have fair and equal opportunities. So, yeah, there's just a lot of things that I do, a lot of things that shaped me and built me to who I am today. And I'm looking forward to what else God has in store for me.
That's great. So, have you faced well, obviously you've probably faced backlash. I mean, that's just obvious. Have you ever felt like you faced like censorship or just pushback from like algorithms?
I think it was when I was starting out smaller wise, so between like 1,000 and 10,000 followers, there would be periods where my content would be booming and I would get a lot of views. And of course, being a content creator, you can kind of know your algorithms, and some days are going to be really bad for the algorithms, and one day you're going to make a viral video. It just really depends. But there's almost like a certain flow that you can go off of and base your content off of. And there's just some weeks that I had like zero following, and I know that was due to censorship. I've had videos taken down. I've had strikes on my accounts. I've had community notes. I've had people report me. All of the things you can think of. Of course, I've had my DMs swamped with death threats and other threats that I probably can't say on here. But I've had a lot of backlash, but it will never stop me.
Yeah, that's inspiring. So, you mentioned obviously starting off and you feel like you've maybe faced a little bit of censorship early on. So, now what was that first piece of content that made you really take off? What was that like groundbreaking video or, post online that you made?
Been posting really inconsistently, like in January and February and like a little bit through March. And then mid March, there was like this audio that was trending. And I was like, okay, like I guess I'll just hop on. And I think the audio was talking about like it's from Alice in Wonderland. And it's like, why would you paint the roses red? They're white, or something like that. And it was that trending audio. So I put my story of how my grandparents came here legally and built their American dream. And so I kind of put that onto the trending audio and I went to sleep. Mind you, my reels were getting 300 views at the time. And I look at my phone and it has blown up to about 20K. So for me, that's pretty viral as a very, very small content creator. I think I had like 200 followers. And the amount of hate comments were absolutely lovely. I think all of the comment section was filled with hate. But then it kept snowballing and snowballing, and I think currently that video is at 5 million. It's not my best one so far, but it definitely was the start of something. And I kind of realized, okay, there's eyes, there's people watching, there's a place where my content is being accepted and hated on. But I kind of was like, okay, it's movement. Obviously, it kind of pushes your algorithm out there. I gained a little bit of following, and it kind of kept everything in motion for me.
Yeah. So, obviously, speaking of backlash again, do you think that it helped you grow as a creator? Do you think it maybe gave you some experience that, you use to create content in the future?
Things. I think number one, having a lot of hate is going to push your content out further. And I don't know if the haters realize this, but The more times they hate comments, the more times they send this to their friends being like, this is so stupid, it actually pushes your algorithm out there more and it gets more people to see it, which is kind of funny because it works against them. The second thing is I noticed how I worded things because somebody who is still a very big inspiration in my life is Charlie Kirk. And he always tried to be a bridge between conservatives and Republicans without doling down his message. And I kind of realized that the way I worded things could bring people together or tear them apart. And you really have to be selective with the way that you choose that. And then also backlash on just a personal level of realizing that everyone is going to have their own opinions of you, whether good or bad. You can't base who you are off of those opinions. You have to base them off of what the Bible says about you and what your core people say about you. I would always say, if I'm good with Jesus and I'm good with my close knit family and friends, then I'm good. I don't need the whole internet saying I'm amazing or I'm horrible. As long as I'm good with those people, then I'm good. So I think all of that just helped me and my content grow.
Yeah. So, how do you balance being bold and so outspoken in your beliefs while still trying to reach people who may disagree?
I have been learning and been struggling through, like, even in March, I have people in my own life that I completely disagree with politically, religiously, all of the things. And I think honestly having them in my life to realize it's okay to disagree with people, it's okay to still be friends with people, and respect each other. And so that's something that I've learned in my content as well. If I need to share the truth, I need to share this piece of information, but I also can bring people together. And I think my content can do both of those things. It can sometimes make you realize that you don't agree with people, and then it can also make you realize that you do agree with some people.
Yeah. So, what has been the most rewarding moment or rewarding time in your journey as a conservative creator online?
Bittersweet for me to talk about, but unfortunately, it was when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. Um, I I didn't wanna post anything when this happened, but I felt like a lot of people were, and I prayed about it a lot and talked to a lot of people, and I felt like and I should honor what Charlie did for me and so many people. And I thought I was gonna get a lot of hate. I thought I was gonna get the comments of "You're next" and all the things, and of course I did get those comments, but I was not expecting the amount of DMs. I had over 20,000 DMs in one night of teens saying, "I wanna stand up. How do I get involved with Turning Point? How do I start doing what you're doing? I'm not a Christian, but I'm going to church for the first time. I'm not a conservative, but I'm following you because I wanna see your perspective." Um, and I think that was one of the most rewarding times because I had all these people reaching out, being open to my opinions, wanting to get in the fight, wanting to stand for freedom, wanting to stand what Charlie stood for. So, like I said, it's just very bittersweet, but it's honoring that people reach out to me and people can look at me and say, okay, I can trust her with things that are going on in my personal life. I've had people open up to me about things that are going on in their personal life with maybe LGBTQ struggles and things like that. And I just feel like God's kind of placed me there to be an outlet for them. So that's been rewarding, but also very difficult to navigate as well.
Yeah. So, obviously, you mentioned the assassination of Charlie Kirk, such a terrible day. Obviously, that might be one of the turning points in our lives and politically, spiritually, all of the above. Do you feel that right now, in this moment, conservatives have more responsibility than ever to step up?
But I would say Christians honestly have a responsibility to stand up because Charlie stood for biblical principles. I don't care what anybody says. I mean, that's just the fact. And when he was assassinated, it sent out a symbol of they're trying to silence what God says. They're trying to silence the morals that the Bible teaches. And to every church that didn't talk about Charlie, I would have to evaluate that church and say, who are you trying to please? What is your demographic? What are you trying to preach? Because this was an innocent man whose life was taken far too soon because he talked about what the Bible talked about. And if you're not talking about that, then that makes me wonder, are you in line with the principles of the Bible? I think it was a wake up call for all sorts of Christians that were because Charlie was a martyr for his faith. And we realized, unfortunately, and this also emboldened us as well, that the cost is our life. It's our future, it's America, but ultimately the cost is our spiritual life. I heard this quote and it's still impacting me. I'd rather be booed on my way to heaven than cheered on my way to hell. And I think that's the best way to sum it up.
Yeah. So, Obviously, there's just, so much pushback and so much hate in this world. And sometimes you really can't express how much there is, because it's different being a conservative Christian creator out there. So, what do you wish more people knew about this role that you've taken on?
We might disagree with you. Some people might come as brutal, or, if you're on the liberal party, we really don't hate anyone. We just want America to go back to principles that are moral. We have seen this country fall into such immorality. It has turned its back on God. It has turned its back on morals, on a lot of things. And as Christian conservatives, we have personalities. I'm sure we can disagree on a lot of things and we can agree on a lot of other things. Um, but yeah, I think the biggest thing is we don't hate anyone. We really don't. We love everyone. We just disagree with people, and that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with, disagreeing with people. I feel like there's kind of a war on disagreeal and open dialogue and debate. And I feel like Charlie was just such a trailblazer in that, you know, in that sector. And it's just always been so overlooked. And I feel like in the last 10 years or so in politics, I feel like open dialogue and just, agreeing to disagree has just been such an almost like an outdated term. Like if you look at some of these past presidential debates or past, disagreements or like just discussions about politics. So I feel like it's in a way it's become a little outdated, but I'm so glad for Charlie just being such a trailblazer and such a monumental person when it comes to open dialogue and debate. And how do you plan on kind of taking up and living that legacy and kind of again being a trailblazer for open dialogue and open debate, freedom of speech? How do you plan?
The way that I think I'm going to go about this is obviously continuing to make my content, continuing for it to be a place where teens can come together. But also, my good friend Taylor, he's starting a college tour, and he's really championing what Charlie's doing. But I'm actually going to be a little bit on his college campus when he comes to my state and stuff like that, and just continuing trying to get students out there and talking and open dialogue. And I think that's one of the ways that I'm going to do it, as well as building a business for young teen girls that can come and just talk. And I think it's putting yourself out there. It's okay, like you said, to disagree. It's okay to have open dialogue. And when you put yourself out there, when you talk to people at your school or you talk to people at your church, or at your work that you might disagree with, I think that's really where you're going to make waves at.
Yeah, and that's so inspiring again, living on Charlie's legacy and, yeah, so definitely, obviously, I'll keep you guys updated, I'll keep my following updated, obviously, with this Taylor Sharp when, he's going on this Reawaken tour, that's such an amazing thing, I think all of you guys should check that out, obviously, he'll be posting clips, and I believe he's live streaming if I'm not mistaken, am I, yeah,
Streaming for sure.
so obviously you have a pretty busy life. You're doing obviously college and you're just you're a full-time college student and you're doing so much. You're such a busy person. Obviously besides that, when it comes to content creation, if you weren't doing this, what do you think you'd be doing?
I grew up playing a ton of sports and I was really, really competitive about golf. I actually had a lot of offers come in to play college golf, but I decided not to do that instead, and take the path that I originally didn't want to go down, which was politics, but here I am now. So I think that that would have definitely been my path, and I probably would have gone into forensic science, and probably worked with crime scenes, honestly. I know that probably is completely opposite to what I'm doing now, but I definitely think that's probably where I would have been.
That's interesting. Yeah. Where does your interest for forensic science and crime scenes come in?
Seeing like a lot of true crime, honestly. I'm just very invested in true crime and all that stuff. And so I've always had a love for that, as well as an aunt and a cousin who work with like, criminals and things like that. And, they're judges and lawyers. And so I do have a little bit of family background in it.
Cool, cool. So kind of taking a turn away from that and, a little bit more personal, how do you stay grounded in your faith and, your true values, your personal values with all the noise online and, the hate?
So it's a couple answers. Definitely reading my Bible every morning, and I'm not perfect at this. There are some days where I don't have the time and I forget and things like that, but it's definitely prioritizing God, talking to God, praying to Him, having a close community of family and friends that I can talk to about struggles, about faith, and just having an amazing church that knows what I'm doing, that supports me, and having a small group that does the same. So I think it's really finding a good community and grounding yourself in the word and covering yourself in the blood of Jesus every day, because I have had those Instagram DMs of saying, I'm putting spells on you, I'm putting hexes on you, I'm a witch. And for me, I have the blood of Jesus covering me, and nothing, nothing, nothing will ever be able to break that bond. So I think that's the most important thing.
Cool, cool. So, if you obviously this is personal and you don't have to answer, but how did you come to God and how did you find your faith?
My parents have always had a faith that inspires me. They always question things, they always dive deeper. They've always taught us to be strong Christians, but my faith wasn't really my own until 12. And I'm very open about my testimony, but because of sports and because of the kind of way I'm wired, I'm very performance based. So I struggle with a lot of anxiety and depression. And the only way out of that was through God. And I fully had to surrender my life to Christ. Even though I wanted to control it, no matter how many times I would control it, I would end up in the same place. And truly the only thing that radically transformed me was giving my life to Christ and getting baptized. So that's truly when my faith became my own and I started really getting to know God on a deep and personal level.
Yeah. So, obviously there's just such a big revival going on in the church right now. Why do you think this is happening? Why do you think Gen Z specifically is really flocking to church and flocking and seeking faith in God?
And I know a lot of people are like, God's coming back soon, and this is why it's happening. I couldn't tell you. None of us know the hour that Jesus is coming back. It says it in the Bible. But I do think that there are signs and there are things that are happening. And young people are realizing that our world is so, 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 so broken. There's no avenue in this world that you can turn to that will make your life better. Drugs can't do it. Anything that the world provides as an outlet isn't going to work for you, and the only thing that does work is turning to the Bible, it's turning to Jesus in such a radical way that it transforms you. And I think young people are realizing that. And also, what happened with Charlie Kirk and a lot of other people, and young people like you and me standing up for what's right and standing up for the Word of God. I think it has brought on this revival of generations being like, I see what happened in my grandparents' generations and my parents' generations, and how lost and how broken this world is. So let's turn to something that people haven't before. Let's turn to something so radical that it transforms all our lives. And that truly only is Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So, what excites you most about the future of conservatism and obviously Christianity and Gen Z's role in it?
Have a fire lit beneath our feet and this burning passion that only Gen Z and the people living right now are going through. And it's the fact that unfortunately we saw what happened with Charlie Kirk, and that will never stop us. That actually emboldened us to speak about things, and it made our faith personal. It made our beliefs and our convictions personal, to the fact that when I'm 90 years old, I'll still be fighting about this because of how much what happened impacted me and shook me to the core. And I realized that we needed radical transformation, and I think a lot of young people are realizing that too. Like I said, my DMs were flooded with people saying, how do I get in the fight? And that excites me because I'm seeing that young people aren't just letting this pass them by. They're not just forgetting about who Charlie Kirk was. They're not just forgetting about all the things that have happened in our history. They're remembering it and they're choosing to stand for it and fight for it. And I'm really excited to see what this generation brings, because we are bold, we are strong, and we have Jesus inside of us.
Yeah. So you mentioned obviously people flocking to your DMs and you said 20,000 DMs, if I'm not mistaken?
2 nights.
Wow. That's crazy. But obviously for those who you didn't answer and for those who really didn't seek advice from anybody or, any creators just yet, what advice would you give to the conservatives who, may be afraid of, getting backlash or just may not know where to start? What is the best piece of advice you could give to them?
Start small. I've received backlash in school and about everything that you can think about. So I feel like I'm pretty well versed in this, but don't go out seeking for debates. Don't go out trying to make a fight personal to you, and you can have your convictions be personal to you. That may be on October 14th, wearing red and eating pancakes to celebrate who Charlie Kirk was. And that might be personal to you, and that might be a step to, outwardly showing what your beliefs are. It also looks like living a life of Christ. You know, when your friends want you to do something that's testing the limits or you feel uncomfortable with, it's okay to say no. It can look like reposting that thing to your story. It can look like having that Bible verse in your bio. It can look like talking to that one friend during lunch about your convictions, about your beliefs. So you can start small. You don't have to have a big Instagram platform like I do, or you know, like we do, but it can be just having those simple conversations. And I often find that having those simple conversations makes more of an impact than a 10-second clip. So that's my advice.
Yeah. So, what impact do you hope your content has, 5 or 10 years from now? Do you hope that, you kind of are like a Charlie Kirk for your fans, or, who do you hope to be?
He inspires me so much, but somebody else who also inspires me is Brett Cooper. And I feel like she got rose to prominency very quickly because there wasn't a lot of outlets for Christian conservative girls or just girls looking to get into politics. And I kind of want to be that voice for girls who, like I said, love girly things and want to get into politics as well. And I hope that I can be that voice in that place for young girls and even guys to go to and just be like, "She gets it. She gets what I'm going through. She's the same age as I am. She's struggling with the same things, and we can relate on such a deep personal level." But also, like you said, being that Charlie Kirk and building something that's going to last far beyond me. Um, but also setting up the next generation for success. I often felt like Gen Z, we were set up for failure. We were given phones and then we were slammed for having phones because people were saying, well, you're just on your phone, you're not doing anything productive. And I think that's why Charlie made an impact, is because he never gave up hope on Gen Z when it felt like the world turned our back on us, and said, you know, you're just the iPhone kids, you're never gonna be anything. Charlie really said, no, I know Gen Z. I have faith in them and I trust them. And I want to be that light for Gen Z and Gen Alpha and every generation that comes next, because it truly is, it matters about every generation. It doesn't matter what you've gone through or if you have phones or what digital media comes out next. I really do just want to try to set up uh, a fight for the next generation.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's inspiring, and that truly gives me hope. So, taking a more fun and kind of softer turn, obviously, we've talked about some pretty heavy topics. What does a typical day in Solia's life look like?
I wake up at 5 a.m. I will post all my content. I'll normally have it pre-scheduled. I eat breakfast, I go work out, and I film. So I film up a couple things. Currently, right now, I'm working on a business too. So I schedule an hour for business meetings, business contacts, marketing, all sort of things. Then I go to class. So that's from, 8 to 3. Then I'll come home. I'll do any interviews, other business calls, schoolwork. I'll film up for the next day. I'm also working on the Solia Mechling show. So I'm working on editing all sorts of that things. So that's kind of what my nights, my days look like. And then I'll spend about 30 minutes in the Bible before I go to bed. I'll call my best friend every night for about 30 minutes. And then I do it all over again.
Wow, such a busy day, but productive. And I'm glad to have you on here. And obviously, you're invited anytime. So, thank you, Solia, for joining us today.